Hello everybody, welcome to a Two Shadows production. And tonight, we are listening to the 5 terrifying true horror stories. If you enjoy this video and would like to see more just like this, subscribe and like. Let's begin with the first horror story. The Call That Knew My Name. I worked night security at a medical billing office, the kind of job where nothing ever happens. One desk, one camera monitor, and a phone that almost never rang. At 2:17 a.m, the phone rang anyway. I answered with my usual greeting. Silence, then a breathing, slow, wet, too close to the receiver. I told them this was a private line and asked, who was calling? The breathing stopped. A man's voice said my full name, first, middle, last, no hesitation. I froze. I hadn't introduced myself. My name wasn't posted anywhere. I asked how he knew me. He laughed, quietly, and said, "You're sitting alone because Mark called in sick." Mark had called in sick earlier that night. No one else knew. I stood up and checked the hallway behind me. Empty. I asked who he was. He said, "I'm watching the camera you're avoiding." I slowly turned to the monitor. One feed was blacked out. It hadn't been before. I demanded he tell me where he was. He said, not where, when. Then the line went dead. I reported it. Police said it was probably a prank. The next night, Mark didn't come back to work. 3 days later, they found his car in a lake. No body. A week after that, the phone rang again at 2:17 a.m. This time, the voice said, "You should have avoided the other camera." That was the first story. On to the second. Something lived in my attic. The first sign wasn't noise. It was food missing. Small things. Crackers, apples. Once, half a sandwich. I was sure I'd wrapped and put away. I live alone. I blamed myself. Then I started hearing footsteps above my ceiling at night. Light ones. Careful. Always after midnight. I called a contractor. He checked the attic. Said it was empty. Said animals don't walk like that. One night, I set my phone to record audio while I slept. In the morning, I played it back. At 3:12 a.m, I heard myself breathing at 3:14. Another breath joined it. not synced. Too close. Then a whisper. My name. Testing it. Like learning how it sounded. I didn't sleep the next night. I sat in the dark living room with a knife and waited. At 3:13, the attic door creaked open slowly. Inch by inch, a face appeared, pale, bearded, smiling like he'd finally been invited. He whispered, "You weren't supposed to wake up." Police later found evidence he'd been living there for months, watching me, writing notes about my schedule, about when I slept deeply. They asked why I never noticed. I told them I did. I just kept hoping I was wrong. I hope you have enjoyed the last two stories. If so, please subscribe and like. On to the third. The last text my sister sent. My sister texted me at 11:48 p.m. Someone is standing outside my bedroom door. I called her immediately. No answer. I texted back, asking if she was okay. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, and then appeared again. Her reply came through. It knows you. I drove to her apartment in 7 minutes. The door was unlocked. Her lights were on. Her phone was on the bed. Screen cracked. Police said there was no signs of forced entry. No signs of struggle. Just one thing that bothered them. Her bedroom door had scratch marks on the inside, like someone had been trying to keep something out. A month later, I got a text from a murder. I'm cold. Police traced it. The phone hadn't been turned on since the night she vanished. Sometimes I still hear my phone buzz at night. I never check it anymore. That was the third story. Let's continue. The voice in the baby monitor. We bought the baby monitor because our daughter had trouble sleeping. The first few nights were normal. Crying, rustling, soft coos. Then one night, after we put her down, the monitor crackled. A man's voice said, "She is beautiful." I grabbed the receiver and ran to her room. Empty, except for my child, sleeping, windows locked, closet empty. The voice came again through the monitor, closer now. She smiles when I sing. I unplugged it. The sound continues. Police searched the house, found nothing. They said monitors can be hacked. Recommended a new one. The new monitor arrived 2 days later. That night, before we even turned it on, a voice came from it. "You shouldn't have replaced me." We moved out the next week. Sometimes when my daughter laughs in her sleep, I hear a man laughing too. That was the 4th story. I have hoped you enjoyed up to this far, and if you have, subscribe to the channel and like the video. On to the last. The job interview. The email said the interview would be at a private residence. Red flag, but the pay was good. The house was old, isolated, no cars in the driveway. A man answered the door and shook my hand. He knew my resume better than I did, mentioned things I never included. He led me to the basement, said that's where he worked. The walls were covered in photos, hundreds of people sitting where I was sitting, smiling, unaware. I asked what the job was. He said, continuation. I stood up. He locked the door. He told me everyone actually sits in that chair, some longer than others. I screamed until my throat bled. They found the house abandoned years later. Bones in the walls, cameras everywhere. No sign of the man, except one photo of me. That is the end of these terrifying tales. Once again, subscribe to the channel and like the video, because it means a lot and it helps us a lot. If you enjoyed videos like these, comment what you'd like to see next. And if you have any true story suggestions of your own, send them to the email in the description. Good night, everybody. Hello everybody. Welcome to another Two Shadows production horror video. If you enjoy this one, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment what you'd like to see next. On tonight's horror, we'll be talking about the most terrifying American horror stories. Let's begin. This first one is called The Last Broadcast. The emergency alert cut into every channel at 2:17 AM. Not a tone, just a man's voice, calm and practiced. If you are hearing this, you are still early. People assumed it was a hack, a prank, a tired technician's mistake. Social media lit up for about 30 seconds before the signal interrupted again. Do not turn on your lights. they learn faces faster in brightness. In apartments across Chicago, lights flickered off, curtains were drawn, some laughed nervously, others listened. I was part of the first sweep. The voice continued. We thought it was a gas leak. That's what they told us to say afterward. Police scanners went dead. Cellar service lagged. The voice kept returning, slipping between channels, radios, baby monitors. They are not entering homes where people are asleep, it said yet. By 3:01 a.m., the city was quiet, in a way it never had been. Not even during blackouts or blizzards. No traffic, no sirens, just breathing behind locked doors. The final broadcast came at dawn. If you made it this far, I'm sorry. They have learned patience. The sun rose over empty streets. Front doors stood open. Televisions flickered in silent living rooms. No one was left awake to turn them on. If you enjoyed this first horror story, the last broadcast, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Let's continue. The cornfield that remembered. In rural Iowa, the Henderson farm had been abandoned for 30 years. No one argued why. Crops failed, livestock went missing. The land itself felt aware. When developers brought it cheap, they planted corn. By mid-July, the stalks were too tall. Taller than they should have been. They bent toward passerby like listeners, leaning in. Kids dared each other to run through at night. None of them went far, just a few steps before panic set in, before whispers rose from leaves. The whispers sounded like names. One night, a boy named Eli went farther than the rest. His friends watched his flashlight bob between the rows until I stopped moving. They heard him scream once. Search teams found no body, no footprints, no signs of struggle. But the next morning, a new row of corn had grown overnight. Shorter, twisted, shaped unnervingly, like a child curled in fear. Every year after, when someone went missing in the county, the corn grew strange again. The land hadn't forgotten the Hendersons. It was still feeding. That was the end of story 2. Once again, if you enjoy the videos like this, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Room 417 is occupied. The motel outside Flagstaff advertised vacancy year round. Clean sheets, cheap rates, no questions. Room 417 was never rented. Housekeeping was told it was under renovation, though no tools were ever inside. The door stayed locked. The light beneath it stayed on. One night, a storm flooded at the first floor. Guests were moved upstairs. A man with nowhere else to go was given 417 by mistake. The clerk hesitated, then smiled too quickly. Inside the room was normal, until the man noticed the mirrors. There were too many. Every wall reflected him from impossible angles. Some versions blinked out of sync. Some smiled when he didn't. At 2:03 a.m., the phone rang. "Thank you for checking in," a voice whispered. "You're right on time." The mirrors began to fill, not with him, but with others. Hundreds of faces, all watching, all waiting. In the morning, housekeeping unlocked the door. The room was empty again. But the mirror over the sink had cracked. Something had tried to leave. That is the end of story 3. We have 2 more to go. If you haven't, a subscribe helps a lot. Liking the video shows that you would like to see more like this. Let's continue with story 4. The Appalachian recording. A cassette tape was found nailed to a tree deep in the Appalachian Mountains. No label, no date. A hiker took it home. The recording began with static, then heavy breathing. "I don't know how long we've been walking," a woman said. "The trails keep moving." Her voice echoed unnaturally, as if the forest itself were replaying her words. Another voice, male, frantic, cut in. "It's copying us. It learned my voice an hour ago." Something screamed in the background. "Not animal, not human." "We're not lost," the woman whispered. "The mountain is." The tape ended with footsteps circling the microphone. Slow, curious. When the hiker finished listening, his phone buzzed. A voicemail. Static. Breathing. Then his own voice whispering, "I think it's following me home." That is the end of story 4, The Appalachian Mountains. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and like the video. and comment what you'd like to see next. On to story 5. The town that voted yes. The referendum was simple. Allow the company access to the old mine beneath the town. Jobs would return, schools would reopen, everyone would benefit. The vote passed 98%. Drilling began immediately. The earth protested. Sinkholes, tremors, a sound like something knocking back. Then people started sleeping better. Too well. Whole days slipped by unnoticed. Children stopped dreaming. Dogs refused to go outside. The mine workers came back pale, quiet, compliant. One night the town sirens sounded. Not for fire, not for flood. A voice replaced it, deep and collective. Thank you for consenting. The ground split open beneath Main Street. Something vast shifted below, stretching after a long confinement. The last thing the town heard was its own applause, echoing back from the dark. They had voted, and it had been accepted. That is the end of these 5 most horrifying American horror stories. If you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel and like the video, and comment what you'd like to see next. If you have any of your true story submissions, send them to the email in the description. Good night, everybody.